Through all of this, I needed either a friend or a family member to actually care. If they're doing most of the talking, or they're literally talking over everything that you say, they don't give a shit about you. If you have to pay somebody to give a fuck, they don't give a fuck. And if you're paying them to give a fuck, they'll only give a fuck until the money runs out. You need a friend or family member who gives a shit about you before you can do a goddamn thing if you're broke in this country. Now, if we work together, we can get something accomplished. The problem is I'm not getting heard. When people say they'll help me, they don't actually mean they'll help me. They mean that they'll talk over me and tell me what to do and what to think and what to feel. And they'll want to talk over me and make 10,000 suggestions, but literally not hear a word I'm fucking saying. And that's not help. Happy goddamn Christmas. It should be over in just a couple of minutes. I'm glad it's over. I spent the day pretty much by myself in my car. Like every other goddamn day. People want to be negative ninnies. That's useful. Being realistic is fucking useful. Realistically, there's a way to fucking turn in predators. Realistically, if all you're going to do is make excuses not to, well, you're just as guilty. If you help a child molester to get away, by law here in the United States, you are guilty of that crime as well. Not in its entirety, of course, but you have committed a crime against a child. And since the original crime, let's say you've got a child who's sexually assaulted, and you witness that sexual assault. If you don't tell on it, they can charge you with all sorts of stuff. And there's a likelihood they'll charge you with voyeurism because you saw it and said nothing. Then again, how many parents hear from their kids about being abused and do absolutely nothing? That's just as gross. You want to believe that the parents should know their kids, right? They should know their kids whether well enough to tell if they're telling the truth or not, right? Well, here's the thing. Most of y'all spend so much time lying to your kids because you don't want to hear them talking. You don't know shit about them. How many of the parents here in Tillamook know how shitty their kids are? And is that to say that every single youngin' here in Tillamook is shitty? I don't believe they're all shitty, but there's enough of them that are shitty that are going unchecked for it to be a major safety risk and a health hazard, especially for those on the streets. Well, it's not like there's some people outside. I'll find out what they're looking for. Well, I thought it might be some homeless folks, but looks to me everybody had the day off. There was 2 people that had the day. And it looks like these folks are waiting for midnight. So, yeah, the folks at Safeway didn't have to work on Christmas Day, which is nice. Alright. When it comes to helping people out, it's a lot easier to help people out if you listen to them. And that's one thing that I can't get anyone to do. Hey, I don't mind if you ask questions, but listen one time through. One-on-one. Listen to me one time through. Without interrupting 100 times, please. Without pushing a suggestion that you had like it is crack. Please listen to my words. I know my situation better than you do. So let me tell you what's going on. For Christ's sake. It'll eventually get to the point that I can't speak. You think people are bad now? You should see how they are when I'm so overwhelmed that I can't form a full sentence. Hey, you can all go fuck yourselves. Being an American fucking sucks. It might be nice for some of y'all. Those of you who are privileged. That would be about half of you, I suppose. Now, compared to the homeless, you're all privileged. You're mentally ill, huh? Are you mentally ill and homeless? Then you're privileged. You're black, huh? Are you black and homeless? No? Then you're privileged. You're a military veteran. Are you a military veteran out on the streets? No? Then you, my friend, are privileged. You're a woman, huh? So you got it worse than everybody else? Really? Are you a homeless woman? No? Then you don't have it worse than everybody else. You have privilege. There is one thing that I am 100% for when it comes to, well, the Palestinians versus the American homeless. I am of the belief that every human being should be allowed a place to stay. Allowed their own property where they have their own rights. Because I've seen for far too long that having no rights because you have no property is the way the entire world works. Look at how people are dying over the Donbass region. It's not even a good region. Shit, it's not a chunk of property I'd want to own. Well, as a homeless person, I'd be pretty glad to own any piece of property. I was going to buy some property in Colorado before Natalie Bollinger was killed. Had it picked out. had the money to do it too. It was just going to take a little bit of patience. But that's not what ended up happening, is it? You know what? All of my so-called friends who wanted to tell me to be patient, no, that is the wrong thing to do when somebody is being abused. To tell them to be patient. They're taking abuse. The longer that you waste fucking time pretending to give a shit, the more abuse they have to take. And as long as it's not happening to you, without fail, you will inevitably look the other way. We get to hear politicians tell us about how the American people, the American people, the American people. But then when it comes to doing a goddamn thing for the American people, where are they? Talking about the Dow Jones Industrial or the NASDAQ. Oh, there's negative stuff happening to the American people. Well, we'll stop talking about the American people. We'll try to find something where we're sort of not fucking everything up. Oh, look at this. We got the stock market. It's kind of sort of not sucking today. Rich people are making a profit. So let's go back to the telling all these poor people that if they work hard enough, they'll eventually be rich too. And when they get sick of that shit, we'll go right back to the, oh, well, we're for the American people. We're for the American. No, the fuck you're not. No politician is for us. They see us as a means to an end. Why would you go to work when you can convince others to do it for you? Unfortunately, that runs into a major issue of people working themselves to death. And the American people, what do they do about it? They complain at the people being worked to death, that they're not doing enough. Now we got a whole society of youth here in America that, well, their idea of work is pretty fucked up. A lot of these youngins have to work 2 or 3 jobs. 2 full-time jobs is about average for the ones that are working. 2 full-time jobs. That's 16 hours a day that you're busting your ass, and you're not even getting paid overtime because you're working 2 different jobs. How sad is that? How many of these 18 to 30-year-olds, how many of them have the time for a family? Working that many hours. And then we got a lot of folks who are talking trash about how many men are living with their parents this day and age. Paying attention to the number of women who are living with their parents. We have to make it a sexist issue, don't we? Why? It sounds like they're still waiting on somebody to come open the door. Hopefully it happens soon. It's kind of chilly out there, and although I'm not best friends with anybody here, I do like most of the people. There's a few folks that I don't necessarily agree with, and I don't necessarily get along with, but I do my best. None of these people are outright evil. There are a few of them that I wouldn't put it past them to do something vindictive and malicious. Just because they have that wandering blame issue. They've got a lot of hate, a lot of anger, and they want to push it onto somebody they can get away with. and they just have to bide their time. It's a pretty common tactic. Basically, instead of doing anything yourself, what do you guys do? You go find somebody who's territorial or has a crush on you, and you try to get them to do your dirty work. Women are more likely to get away with this because women are more likely to get that sympathy just because they're women. Police officers act exactly the same. When we go blaming men and going blaming women, not sure if you noticed, but when I read a whole bunch of blaming men posts, I'll get on and I'll make a video just as a reply where I blame women. If I watch one that's blaming women, I'll get on and I'll make one that's all blaming men. And then I'll explain through both of those videos that blaming an entire group is fucking stupid. People telling their Christmas stories. Getting heard is the most complicated part of all of this. When I tell people about my disabilities, I don't need them making 10,000 suggestions. I need them to let me explain how it affects me. But we never get that far. They got too many ideas in their head. Too OCD mentally. It's dehumanizing to be talked over this much. A lot of people want to tell me about how a conversation is supposed to go. Well, when somebody who is a victim of abuse is trying to tell you what's going on, that's not a conversation. Those of us who are autistic, we're told that we just don't get social cues. No, we get the social cues. They're just not acceptable. If your daughter just disappeared, right, and you were frantically looking for her, is it really acceptable for people to treat you like a crackhead because you're trying to find your kid? Is it okay for people to treat you like you're schizophrenic because you're frantic? If it's not okay to treat you that way, why is it okay to treat others that way? Why is it okay for one gender but not the other? Those are good, legit questions. Anyway, I'm just trying to keep myself occupied for a few. I've been having a panic attack all day long. Those of you who want to pretend that panic attacks are over nothing, you're full of shit. You're fucking idiots. None of you have panic attacks over nothing. Most of you, your panic attacks are over being too much of a pussy to speak up. For me, my panic attacks are about the fact that I try to speak up and I just get bowled over. Like, fuck, why couldn't I have been born in Russia? At least if I'd have been born in Russia, they'd have put me out of my misery by now, you know? When I have to deal with predators, and then I have to deal with having to turn those predators into police officers who have a history of being predatory. Shit, how well is that gonna work? I've gotten a few people on my channel to look up the name Waylon Lolotai. Waylonlolotai. Once they look that up, well, they get a lot more fucking interested. If you look up the name Clearview Behavioral Health, Johnstown, Colorado, Johnston, I want you to take a look at that. What happened to Clearview? Why was I there? When I said those things were happening, why was I treated like I was a nut job? You get to see all these years later that I was right about Waylon Lolotai. You get to see all these years later that I was right about Polly Olson. You get to see that I was right. I was right repeatedly about the Boulder Police Department and many other departments in the United States. When you're homeless, people don't want to help you. They want you to move on to the next place. If they do help you, it's because they want you to move on to the next place. And that's in most situations. Or they'll want to send you to a church that's supposed to help you out. You go to that church a dozen times, help you the first time, they're not going to help you out any of the other times either. I needed help getting a protection order against a lot of different people. And none of that would have ever been necessary if people had just left me the fuck alone. Vladimir Putin and I had a very similar experience. One of the things I was listening to today, he was talking about how he had been cornered by a rat. How he had cornered a rat, like an actual animal, a large rat, in a corner, and the rat turned around and jumped at him. It turned around and attacked him. And he held that with him for the rest of his life because, well, anytime you back something into a corner, it's likely to fight back. What was my experience? My experience was with a rabbit. I suppose I had to tell you how I learned from that experience as well. So, there was a rabbit when I was younger. And it was just a cute little rabbit, and I thought I was going to get to pet it. And I walked up to it, and it bit me right in the finger. And I don't remember how old I was. I was pretty young because I barely remember the experience. If it wasn't for the fact that it was a cute little fucking bunny rabbit that bit me, I probably wouldn't have remembered. I've been bitten by so many garter snakes. Garter snakes can draw blood. It's just not easy for them. Now, what was my experience? My experience was that I backed a rabbit into a corner. So my saying, when you guys hear me say this, when I say even a rabbit will bite you if you back it into a corner, it's kind of a similar experience. Later on in life, I learned how to use that to my advantage. Backing a rabbit into a corner is not a smart thing to do, and a rabbit can basically turn on a dime. But if you dart at it while it's facing a corner, it'll run right into the corner and it will possibly knock itself out cold. But why would you want to do that to a rabbit? Unless you're starving, something like that ain't necessary. When I was running rabbits into the side of the barn in Lodgepole, myself and Chris Stegeman were both hungry. Real hungry. We even tried making soup out of a bunch of ketchup and mustard packages and other seasonings we had in the house because that's what we had to work with. I was also pretty alright with a bow. I could get a rabbit at about 25 feet. But rabbits, they like to just sit there. Like you can't see them. They're not the brightest of creatures. Rabbits are so fluffy and lovable, ain't they? With those big, long, cute ears. Well, they got some big, long, not so cute teeth, too. And they do go in quite a bit. What I've had to deal with is being backed into a corner by a bunch of predatory individuals who don't have a conscience. And I'm told that I have access to plenty of resources, but I have to go to those bullies for those resources, or I have to get past them while I'm backed into a corner. While I'm separated from those resources. And I have to jump through a gauntlet just to make a fucking police report. God damn it. When I say fuck this country and everybody in it, I really do mean it. Yeah, there are probably countries on this planet that are worse. But what I know is their Constitution is a farce. It's a bad joke. It's used to keep us believing in something that doesn't exist. For true democracy to exist, the people have to have an education. Without that education, what are they voting on? Your opinion as a politician? Their neighbor's opinion as a busybody? Their pastor's opinion? Our denomination says Mickey Mouse is evil and trying to turn children into homosexuals. Jesus wants you to boycott Disney. Well, woohoo. Many of us are our morals and values from Disney. Growing up with Disney. Right now we're having to deal with the impossibilities of reality, aren't we? If you try to be a classic gentleman, then you're a misogynist. You're going to piss off a bunch of lesbians. But if you think the other way, then, well, you get to deal with a lot of women who believe in the classical way of living telling you how you're a misogynist, a liberal misogynist out to destroy the world. If you take one side, you're trying to force everybody to be a homosexual. If you choose the other side, you're trying to force everyone to be a heterosexual. The reality is, when it comes to kids, what the hell are you bringing up sex for to begin with? Do you really think we need to stuff 4, 5, and 6-year-olds' heads full of shit like abortion? Do you think we should be trying to normalize children and kink like that lady Shoe on Head was talking about? That's some straight up chimo shit there. That is fucking creepy to the max. So, once in a while, I watch that Shoe on Head lady's videos. There's a lot of stuff that she says that I agree with. There's also a lot of stuff she says I don't agree with. Oh yeah, and I don't have to. See, that's one of the things about our Constitution that is supposed to be important, but it's not. When it comes to our day-to-day lives, how many of us get to live our lives, and how many of us are constantly jumping through the rat race just so we have something to eat? Just so we don't get everything that we have stolen again and again and again and again. And that, my friends, is what America is all about. Working people to death and telling them they're not working hard enough. Meanwhile, the people telling us that we're not working hard enough, what are they doing? Are they working? No, they're not. They're busy telling us to. They own everything, so we just have to do what we're told. Same thing Native Americans are bitching about. America, while it's taking the guns away from its people, is giving those guns to foreign countries to fight foreign wars and claiming it's for American interests. Well, I think the first interest we should be paying attention to is the Constitution of the United States of America. Whatever happened to that particular document? And the amount of time that it takes for someone to set aside the time and actually listen. They've made already dozens of decisions for me based on their ignorance of the situation. And I asked them, please, can we stop doing all of this stuff and actually have you just sit and listen? Not with the intent of interrupting me every sentence. And I understand that you will probably have questions, but that's why you need to let me finish. Because we get sidetracked on one little fucking thing that you can't get past, and literally every single one of you does this. You got this one little fucking idea in your head, and you're gonna keep on repeating it, and if I do anything other than what you want me to do, you're going to be shitty to me, and you're going to waste my fucking time. You won't make the time to listen, but you'll make the time to talk over me. And you'll make the time to set things up without me. You'll make the time to talk to others about the situation, but what are you talking to those others about? You haven't stopped to listen yet. And then you get frustrated because none of the shit that you want me to do actually works. Well, you'd have known that. You'd have heard me the first 30 times I fucking told you that. Now, for the first time, somebody finally tried to help me turn in one of my predators. But how long did that take? Thank goodness for Jared Scudder. He helped to stop that bullshit. He helped me to turn something in, and we had a little bit different situation, didn't we? And the lady from Safeway here who's been helping me out, yeah, she's the first one to actually go in with me to turn in a goddamn thing. But at least with Jared, he made the call with me. As far as two guys go, especially two broke guys, we did a pretty good job getting. And as a result, the situation with Tyler Crabtree had a peaceful resolution where nobody got shot, nobody got stabbed, nobody got beaten up. But also, I got a lot of people who want to tell me what somebody said, who I was literally standing right next to them. So, yeah, telling me what somebody said, who was standing right next to me when they said it, that doesn't help me. I was there. I don't need you continually interrupting me to say, oh, well, this person said this or this person said that. Well, if I was standing right there, I don't need you to repeat it 30 times. And if I'm trying to tell you something important and you're just going to keep on interrupting me to say that same thing, I'm going to continue to interrupt you to tell you what's important. What's important is the safety of the evidence. And what's important is having a safe environment to sort through all this shit. Depending on others to do it doesn't get it done. It gets my time wasted, and when they come around to do what it is they promised to do, they're going to decide at the last minute, inevitably, to do something else that's completely fucking useless. And then I am expected to go along with it because I'm the retard who doesn't know up from down. I'm the retard who doesn't know black from white. I'm the retard who doesn't know right from left. And that's the way you pieces of shit try to sell it, isn't it? That I'm a retard. How many of these predators have wanted to blame me for their predation? Oh, it's your fault for existing, Sean. It's your fault that people assault you in public because you're in public. You chose public. It's your fault when police officers assault you, Sean. And that's the way you all play it off. If the victim is a male, the victim deserves it. Lesbians hate you for being straight. Straight people hate you for being gay. Meanwhile, neither one of them bothered to even find out if you're gay or straight. They just assume when you say something they don't like, or you disagree with their goddamn Nazi bullshit and rhetoric, what are they going to do? They're going to assign you to the opposition. You've got an opinion that doesn't suit what a drug addict has to say. Well, you must be a bad person because that drug addict is a female. It must be about sex. You must only want sex. Holy shit. And that's the country I live in. I mean, us men are expected to give our entire lives for a bunch of people who don't give two shits about us. I mean, everything in this country is men's fault anyway, right? Isn't that what you try to sell us? It's all men's fault that women choose to date stupid people, or mean people, or violent people. Oh, but later on, when you go back to him, it's not his fault, is it? No, it's not. Somehow, it always seems to come down to being the fault of the person who helped you out of that situation. You call up 10 guys and 11 women that you know to help you move. Maybe one or two of those women will show up. Usually, the men that you're calling are either single or men that you have some pull with. Oh, that was smart of me. I just broke my spoon. Fuck it.